Alrighty, what's going on today, guys? Evan Aldo here. Thank you guys for joining me. What's up, Johnny M? What's up, B Baker? Been a second. Juan Rodriguez, Daniel. What's going on, guys? Really appreciate you guys. So, the first thing we'll look at, obviously all the freaking trades I'm in right now are doing voluptuous because the market's going up. Bitcoin at new all-time highs. And we'll look at, how altcoins are doing in that respect in a second. But I know, ETH looks really good, I think, against Bitcoin, against its own pair. ETH dominance looks great as well. It's hard to be that bearish on ETH right now, in my opinion. Anything could happen, but it's pretty hard to be that bearish on ETH. And, we'll talk about, it kind of, looks a lot like you may see somewhat of a situation similar to what we saw, back last year where, if the Fed cuts in September, that triggers kind of your last altcoin season into the end of the year. It kind of seems like you'll see something along those lines. There'll definitely be differences, but you know what I mean? There's going to be some, some differences. So, yeah, that's what we're kind of looking at right now. So you got ETH right here, and I think you should be able, unless it's kind of a real like red herring, you should be able to see a higher jump for ETH too. Your funding rates. People are not tuning in, and I think they're going to start tuning in once ETH gets above 3,000. That's kind of my main guess here. And then if you look at funding rates, still not terrible at all. Bitcoin a little high, okay, but ETH not. You're still like way in the green zone generally. It doesn't mean you're 100% going to go up, but normally, there's not, all it means is there's not like an overwhelming amount of people trying to get greedy and long. You're not seeing that yet. And this 2-day on ETH, just to, guesstimate, when's the last time you saw the 2-day on ETH kind of, you're not seeing trigger waves, but you're building up to have something like this probably. Into that trajectory. So if we were to do that, that's up to 4,000. I know end of July. Okay, maybe it happens a little bit faster. From that low to, and this is probably best case scenario. Yeah, that would probably be best case scenario, right around 4,000 or just under it by end of June. That's by fear and greed. It would tell you probably peak out by the end of June. I would say about another month. When we look at that kind of metric out of generally what happens. Obviously anything can happen, but when you look at fear and greed, probably I think you may have a shot at 4K by the end of June. Then you get your summer lull. Yeah, there needs to be like enough fear probably to get people. If you were to do this, if you were to come up to 4K, you come back down. I don't know, the summer lull is normally pretty freaking bad. It probably would be at least 20% down. 20 to 25% down, and then into your end of year, let's say October, that'd be probably the earliest I could see it, 7,400. So, excuse me, if you are at that 7,400 in October, that would probably be a pretty big sell signal, or at least start to get the hell out of these markets. Fed is most likely going to cut in September. Let's see. So, yeah, ETH. Well, we'll look at alts in a second. I think ETH will, let's see. Wow, we've got a lot of people in the chat. I'll get to those chats in a second. Shout out to NBF. Okay. So let's just look at the Fed Watch tool here. I think it's still September. That would be and Trump is probably not too happy about that. But yeah, 50% chance. So that's where it's favored right now. Not impossible for July to move over, but probably if the market keeps doing well, it would probably be a pause. September could be that cut. So if it's like last year, you see that cut in September, and then that's kind of triggers your main phase of this market where you see, you could see altcoins do a 2 or 3x in that amount of time, like your, even bigger market cap altcoins. So that's what you got to pay attention to. That's kind of my guess on what we may do here. So let's see here. What's up, Travis? Okay, so what's alts don't look good at all because they go down with Bitcoin. So, when you look at, so that's that's obviously a huge thing. When you look at like others, and I think this is the best chart to look at for your average healthier alts. Now, not all our alts are going to do this, but they're generally trying to hold this low, and they're seeing a little bit of strength here. And if you can confirm this, you probably will in 3 days. That would be very good for altcoins. So at the moment, they're looking better. But, I get you. I mean, it's not always going to be, ETH versus Bitcoin looks good. I mean, it's not always, you've seen a lot of depression. I mean, if you look at some of the Bitcoin evaluations here, I mean, DOT versus Bitcoin still at these lows. I mean, it could go lower. We don't know. It looks good, though. On your 2 and 3 week, it looks pretty good. I mean, if you look, and we'll look at, I don't know, what's something else that's gotten slaughtered, like the thumbnail of this video. I mean, Matic, Bitcoin, just completely slaughtered. It's looking better, though. It's looking at rare bullish signs here. Your money flow ain't too good. And it could go down lower. I mean, it's hard to exactly say here. But we'll see. I could see a little bit of a reversal here. I don't know if it's something I want to bet too much on. But I would feel a little bit, Matic could be a kind of a wild card, but it's been such a depressor. But Matic versus ETH, I think, may hold that level, which is good. So that's kind of what you're looking at there. But yeah, I think alts, monetary policy would tell you alts are still kind of in the toilet. But, following kind of what we did last year, I think you could see a little, I mean, I don't know if it's ever going to be as crazy as 2021 again. Even as crazy as 2021 was, it wasn't as crazy as 2017 into very early 2018. So, it's probably going to be less crazy, but can you do, some damage here? Can some things do good? I mean, especially if ETH could jump up to 4K in the next month. And I think for some reason, I think it can. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I really think it can. Then, you erase a lot of pain. And then after that, after your next pullback, then alts kind of strive against ETH into the end of the year. And I think that's the most common situation here. I think a lot of fun will be had, in Q4. I mean, it could be, it's hard to say. If you look at Bitcoin, things topping out 18 months after the halving, you're looking at a top in October. If you're thinking for your cycle, it'd probably be December, So, yeah. But let's see here. So that's Matic right there. And then if you look at this from that area, I mean, next month, I think if you can get to 40 cents next month, you may have, definitely showing more strength, you know what I mean? Above your damn 2022 low. Just wipe away a lot of that pain there. So, yeah. What's up, NBF? Appreciate you. Alts only as good as Bitcoin. Well, we'll see. Monetary policy would probably tell you that. Okay, feel bullish. I feel bullish too. Compared to the bear market, audience number, it's been pretty. We've been growing very recently a bit, but just people tuning in to crypto in general has not been that high, Marco. I mean, that's why I think we're going to get more in the next month, more people tuning in. And even this summer, I think that during your summer lull, there's going to be more people tuning in. They may not be the most optimistic, but there's going to be more people tuning in. And I think Q4, you'll see a lot of people tune in as well. So it is a little bit, it is a little bit slow in that retrospect. I think a lot of the channels, it's not the biggest thing right now. Let's see, it doesn't make me kind of look like it's ready for a correction. Well, let's look at that. Not really, man. I mean, you're hitting this point, I mean, maybe some consolidation. My main view is 120 within the next month. So it could be just a gradual bouncing around and then continue forward. I mean, that daily bear div may give us, more of a bear case, But new all-time highs, I'll take it. And then that 2-day looks generally pretty good. I mean, that should bring you up to 120 within the next month in all likelihood, and then look at that green you got. So I think that, if you're really trying to map this out here, it's probably going to be, you look at, that was kind of one of your tops there in the second one. I would think 1 or 2 more waves on your 2-week. I would think maybe you probably get a summer low wave around, end of June, July, and then you come up and then you get your final kind of wave, your major sell signal sometime at the end of the year. I think that's probably what you're going to see on this 2-week. The 3-week would probably be, similar in some type of way. I mean, your next red dot probably won't be the real big sell unless you wait till October to get that. And you could probably get it over the summer, and then the one after that'll probably be your big sell signal. This one was, that one and that one. You had those kind of your September, and then, a little weird there, but, yeah. You may get that one above the 0 line, too. If this is above the 100 line, if this is above the 100 line, then yeah. I mean, it could easily, yeah. No, it's starting to look more like, yeah. If you get that October, that's probably your big sell. Get the hell out of that market. Kind of like 3 strikes, you're out. Like, you know what I mean? Like this one right here, that was just a summer lull last year. This one was, your typical beginning of the year correction for the post-halving year. And then your next one's probably going to be equivalent to December 21 or January 18. Big points. Big points. So that's what we were kind of looking at there. But next month, I think you're generally still in bull territory. If you guys want to make some of these trades, got BloFin as the pin chat, 10% off your fees for life. BYDFI great as well. Both of them are 10% off your fees for life. Really good deposit bonuses. I think BYDFI, it's 15% deposit bonus. BloFin, there's a trading amount bonus. Like for a certain amount of volume traded, you get a nice bonus. And then in addition, you get 10% back on your first deposit up to $3,000. So it's really good. Recommend you guys check it out. Don't forget, if you deposit at least $100 in either of those exchanges and open a support ticket with your UID, we'll give you one free month in Aldo Empire VIP Discord. Just go to the support ticket area and open that with your email or your UID. You can also pay in crypto. Make sure it is through for Tether through the ERC network. We had, maybe I should write ERC only. See if I can edit this. Can I edit this? I should be able to. Hopefully. It says edited. Maybe there's a certain... I'm not going to bother with it right now, but, anyway. So, yeah. Let's see here. This time, everyone waiting for the Fed to cut rates. What happens the same way that happened with Trump? So I think that, the Fed will cut rates at some point before the end of the year in all likelihood. Unless inflation gets nuts, then you're kind of screwed and you're, doing something different. It's possible. But I think you'll see 1 to 2 rate cuts at least into the end of the year. Maybe even 3. So yeah, ETH will get a run. I think it will be its last big one. Too much better competition. It could be. I mean, I don't know. It depends how you look at it. I mean, a lot of people view ETH as the Microsoft Office of crypto. I mean, it's never going to be the best thing, but it does what it needs to do. And it's, been around a while. It's got kind of the name there, so that's possible. I think there's enough ETH hate and enough fear, to bring us forward. I mean, you jumped a lot in the last month. I mean, you came back to life. This is the biggest ETH Bitcoin rally we've seen in a while. This is kind of a convincing bottom. And I mean, anyone telling you that these charts look bad on ETH versus Bitcoin, I mean, they could be right, but dude, in all likelihood, you're probably going to be able to do something like this again, potentially into, the next month. It'll probably take longer, but the end of June, I mean, I could see you back at 0.03, back at where we were at the end of last year, which, I mean, it's still down, but, you're erasing a lot of pain. I'll say that. You're erasing a lot of pain. And I think, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Powell was generally Republican. I don't think they're really... I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that. It's weird. He's definitely more conservative with it than... I mean, he's acting how a Fed chair probably should act. I mean, you should be more responsible, generally. It's coffee. But yeah, let's see. This really hope so. Dead crypto-wise. Yeah, it's pretty dead, but I think it's the moment ETH gets above 3,000 or gets anywhere close to 4,000, you're back in business, in my opinion. If people don't come in at that time, then you're kind of, yeah. You saw CryptoFace's video about me? That was from years ago. Wolf credit from 2021. Wow. Bitcoin dominance should be topping out here in all likelihood. I mean, your 2 week is giving you the giant bear div that we've been waiting, decades for. I'm just kidding, but look, I mean, the most important takeaway here for you guys trying to time the market or whatever. I mean, this most likely will top here, and you should come down. 3 week is starting to look bearish too, and then the other thing, as I mentioned. Probably the next 3 week red dot, if you get that in October, between October and December, October and January, that's probably going to be your major sell signal. You know what I mean? Similar to right there, similar to, back there. So I think that's going to be kind of a major kind of signal. People do not care about crypto. I mean, there's more viewers watching this stream. I could tell. Like you're getting more views. You know what I mean? Like you're getting more people dialed in right now. So I'm feeling it. You know what I mean? Like in all likelihood, you're going to keep this rally forward for probably another month, and then you're going to get your typical summer low. I think some alts will take up some. Like my feeling as a retail investor, as you get into more retail investors, like they're probably not going to be too excited about Bitcoin at freaking 11. This would potentially be a place to short too for Bitcoin. They're not going to be extremely excited. Well, I know somebody mentioned shorting, but that 2 day still looks good. Maybe scalp, I don't know. But yeah, they're not going to be extremely excited about buying Bitcoin at 111K, but maybe buying ETH because it's low. I think that's the most. People are going to get excited about that, I think. That's kind of my view here. They're going to start to get a bit excited about buying ETH, at that evaluation. You could try to short this down. I don't know if it's the best idea, but yeah, you could. I mean, I'm more excited about my swing longs and alts right now. So yeah. Yeah, let's look at XRP. So we already looked at others, Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, I think that you should be able to rally forward up to these points. I mean, XRP, I think this is probably, you probably see something of this nature, like into the end of this month or into next month, you probably get back to these highs, maybe reject, maybe not, and then gradually come up to maybe $6 by the end of the year. Somewhere between 456, I think would be, in all likelihood, the most likely scenario. Well, Marco, yeah, I mean, that definitely could happen. I mean, what could be interesting too is maybe they end QT in June without cutting rates, and that makes the markets dump. And then when they finally cut rates in September, say, that's what comes up. I mean, last year the markets did not dump when they cut rates. The markets started to recover when they cut rates. That's what I would argue. So it could be, it could be the opposite this year. We don't know, but yeah. Dog on Bitcoin. Yeah, I remember that was popular at one point. We gotta look at that. People were excited about that like at the end of last year, and then we obviously know what happened. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the altcoins are, meme coins are doing something. Let's see. It's this, right, dog? Yeah. I mean, it's still down what it was. We don't know what's gonna happen. How about Moodang? I mean, is that sustained its rally? Probably not, but okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know. You got trend reversal there. It could keep going, but who knows? I mean, that's where you just get into major speculation. I mean, it's like I feel like you're better off kind of betting on things with actual utility at this point, especially if you're just following for your cycle to a certain extent. I mean, that looks so good on AVAX. I mean, that could easily bring you up to, these highs again, within a few months. I mean, within a month, you could be at 48, end of June. $48, and then a little consolidation in summer, and then jump up to 96 or something, maybe even higher. So yeah. Kraken listed dog go to the moon. Okay. FOMO meter. Oh yeah. Fear of missing out meter. What's up, cryptodontist? Let's see. Okay. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are very excited about XRP. I'm just not. I don't know. It can get that high, sure. It can. Anything's possible. I didn't even see what happened with Sui this morning, so I don't even know. I just don't have the time to follow every little detail on all these things. But yeah, could Injective come back? I mean, anything could come back, but let's see. Yeah, I mean, it probably will in all likelihood. I mean, it probably will, at least get back up. I would say probably $44 in 10 a year, three or 4x. A lot of these could do. Like it may, if you're in October, you're hitting these points. That's probably it. I mean, this had a lot of fun in kind of March of 24, and you would hope you would jump up higher, but we'll see. Um, mm, H bar. Oh, that meme coin? I haven't heard anyone talk about this in a long time. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like all these meme, that's a more bearish thing. But people are gonna go nuts into these meme coins every time. Every time the market has a little move. I mean, yeah, Trump coin. This probably will jump up higher, $25 or more. Because if this can get up to like, yeah, I mean, his NFT collection kind of follows this too. If we look at, I'm just curious about Magic Eden. I just want to look at his. It's on the one that's, yeah, it's this. So see what the hell these are worth right now in dollars. Under $44. Maybe they'll just stay like that. I mean, when they were released, he charged $100 for them, so you're up slightly, but they were at like 1,200 a pop. Like when Trump coin was at its peak at $74 or something. So yeah. H bar I think should be able to hold this area, continue forward, maybe rally back up to 36 cents by the end of June. I think you got a good shot at that. Yeah, rumors about the dog coin. I mean, yeah, maybe it's the next big meme coin. Who knows? Probably top prices. Bull market, top prices. H bar, yeah. I mean, let's see here. I thought I had. Did I have more on the coin? No. Okay. Maybe here. Yeah. I think if all goes perfectly, 90 cents to 145. If all goes perfectly. I mean, if you got down here, yeah, H bar, you'd be way ahead. But, I mean, the truth is, whether we want to admit it or not, the truth is most of these coins kind of look like, I mean, they're higher generally than they were, a year or two ago in a lot of cases. But, they haven't done much, But they look like they're going to do more now. I could see this in the next month jumping up to maybe 22 cents, maybe doubling, crypto.com. And then into the end of the year, maybe finally getting up to 40 cents or maybe even back to old all-time highs. I don't know if it will, but it can. I think it's just kind of that patience game into the end of the year. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Just curious if I mean, when you look at Bitcoin evaluations, they're all generally trash on most of these, but yeah, now you're going to kind of getting that point. I mean, when is this? When did this? Yeah, I mean, it was relevant, November 21. I mean, I would guess this is probably down how much against Bitcoin? Maybe 93%. But if you got in, you're not down that bad if you got in at any point, kind of 23 or 24, at least on your Bitcoin evaluation. But yeah, I mean, only 50%. Yeah. I'm just thinking here. Yeah, I mean, let's just see what some of the biggest movers are right now. That's what I'm curious about. NFTs too. I mean, when you look at, Mute Apes, I mean, they're down on their ETH pair a little bit, but you'll probably get a bounce there. I mean, it's going to take its time, but yeah. And then if you look at, I mean, let's just see, 24 hours, WorldCoin. I know people that do like that. Yeah, let's look at WorldCoin. Yeah, it's this one, yeah. God, that went to the depths of hell. So whenever somebody's like so bullish on something, it always freaking falls. I remember somebody was telling me to buy this back here. It always falls off a damn cliff, yeah. But yeah, fighting back a little bit. We'll see what happens. Hmm. H bar. Let's see. We just say all season follows interest rates to them too, or is there another reason why it's delayed? Um, it follows more so. Well, kind of neither. I would say more M2 rather than it follows the quantitative easing, which it hasn't really happened yet. Money M2 is about to break upward, which is kind of going to help out alts, I think. So yeah, I mean, you could argue April 22 to kind of when this is coming back was just shit for alts, but now that seem to be making a new all-time high for the amount of money in existence, amount of US dollars in existence, then yeah, it looks like you're gonna, that was all shit for alts, but looks like you're gonna come up some more. So yeah, that's what I kind of guessed there. And if we look at, let's just say others just on its own, that's where you're starting to get, green hike and ashy on the monthly, like a big kind of potential reversal here. And probably, if you really, really want to be optimistic here, I think you can get up to, the average all I think could do maybe, 2 to 3x into this point, maybe get up to this point, maybe even higher, maybe $1 trillion market cap for others. I don't know if that's maybe a little bit too optimistic, but I think you can break upward. It's not going to stay, it's probably not going to stay in this exact range ping pong forever. You know what I mean? It's going to do it's going to probably break upward or downward. I don't think it's going to break downward. I mean, the other chart that people, somebody like Ben Cowan, I've seen him talk about, and I mean, who knows? He'd probably end up right. I mean, who knows? But, getting down to these points, I think is a little bit too pessimistic. Like, I think once you get some of these bull divs and such, you should be able to bounce. But then you see like the weekly, I don't know if that's the best thing. I mean, 5 ELX is usually that's enough, but you still could break down, I guess. Like, you'd have to see Bitcoin dominance going hella high, for this to drop another 27%. You're seeing Bitcoin dominance probably at 70%, I would guess, which, I mean, it's not impossible for it to go there, but yeah, is Sui screwed? I don't know, man. I mean, I'm diversified. I have no idea. Probably not, but we'll see. Definitely have to see. Hmm. Yeah, centralized exchanges. I was actually talking about I may do some decentralized trading moving forward, but for now, BYDFI, BloFin are the main two. I mean, not too shabby with this account. Up to no, it's higher than 20. This thing doesn't update. It doesn't show your unrealized or whatever. It's like 17 in there right now, whatever. But pretty good there. Like a good, nice 10 grand last couple weeks. So we'll take it. So yeah, but check it out if you guys are interested. The link is down below for especially BloFin, 10% off your fees for life there too. Let's see here. Cardano, I think, Cardano's got a good, I think we got some, we got some potential here. ADAs go to it just goes back and forth. I mean, people like the pattern. People are really pessimistic around here, also pretty pessimistic around there. They like the pattern. Some good things have happened, especially with Trump and all that. So I think you got a good shot at these highs, again. Maybe even $5 to $8 could be on the table. Um, that would probably be $8 would be pretty insane. A 10x there, I don't know if you could get that, but we'll see. We'll definitely have to see. $7 or $8. I mean, yeah, if it can get up to seven, that's huge. I mean, if you got, well, I mean, you would still to make $1 million with it. You'd still need 100 grand in it right now or more. You know what I mean? But if you had, I don't know, 10 grand in it, 100 grand. I mean, some people would take that. Let's see, Undo. Yeah, I think Undo probably has got some good potential. Let's take a look at Undo. Huh. I mean, I would think if all goes well, you should end of June $1.50, and then maybe your summer correction, and then these highs are maybe $2 or maybe even more. That would only be a 3x into end of year, so I mean theoretically it could go even more. I think there's potential here. I think you would repeat something of that nature, maybe a little bit more extended. So yeah. Staking is the only thing holding Cardano back. Institutions want to be able to buy a lot of it, 75% of it or something like that is stake. Let's see. Staking is the only thing holding Cardano back. Yeah, I guess so. Well, they'll get it when people sell it, they'll probably get a lot of it in the next bear market or sometime next year then. Or maybe this summer even. Do we officially break the 4-year cycle? No. Not at all, really. I mean, maybe a little bit. The only chart that really shows it being broken, in my opinion, would be more for alts. If you look at others, Bitcoin, because you kind of lost the low. You lost this low, but now you're currently above it. I mean, if that 3-day, that blood diamond plays out in the 3-day craps itself, then you definitely lost it there. And this one, that was bearish overall. Took some time, but that was bearish. This one was bearish. So normally, the thing too that's interesting with that, okay, so that's interesting. So December said that one didn't play out. That one kind of played out, took some time. Usually in the good years, these end up playing out bullishly. So my guess is that you could jump here. So yeah. My guess is definitely that it can jump. Well, the thing that's interesting too is like you take the big plot twist. If you really want to be as bearish as possible on alts, you take like a huge plot twist and then you jump up a lot, you come back up to here or something into the end of this year. Let's say you come up to there, which would be average alt, that's the top 10 outperforming Bitcoin by double, even maybe even more. Say it's there, and then plot twist 26 into 27, then you really get fucked. You know what I mean? Then you really get screwed. Excuse the language. But yeah, I mean, there's that possibility. Yeah, a lot of people staking Cardano. I don't know if that's necessarily, it's big in Japan. So yeah, all over. I think it'll do well. There's a lot. It's hard to say, man, but I think it'll do well. I think, along with a lot of other ones. I think that'll also do well. And some ones that we've never even heard of, I think they'll do well, that haven't even been released yet. And they'll probably do well too. If you know what I mean. Fetch.ai, yeah, I mean, I'm curious about. That's been fighting back a little bit, yeah. They kind of lost some momentum, but I think it should follow that general trajectory upward. Maybe a new high into end of year. If you can get back up to $3, it'd be great. Yeah, I think you probably got the move right, Ethan. What's up, Sean? Oh man, you've been a follower from the beginning. Yeah. Staking is the same thing as a treasury bill. Kinda. I mean, in some ways. The thing with treasury bills is like, so on the 30 year, and the same could kind of be said on the 10 year too. I was looking at this for the sake of looking at like mortgages. So right here, you did have an alt season, October 23, when this came crashing down. If we do that, the last time we hit here, you'd see an altcoin season, and we do something like this, a big kind of drop down. It would happen relatively quickly too. Like you would go from 7% interest rates all the way down to, probably under 6, into maybe even July. So that could happen. Will it happen? I have no idea, but it could happen. Then if you, get a bounce there, I don't know, something like that. I mean, nothing goes straight down, but, into the end of the year, maybe then, then you got potential to come down. But we'll see. I mean, bond market, I think, will be, let's look at that. That's a good jump, too, for your bond market. It's, well, I don't know about the best jump, but it's getting a jump from that major area. That could be your double bottom. Like, it wouldn't really make sense for this to go much lower. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have a Fed that's going to be, if any, you don't have a Fed that's going to be just doing more QT and making that more extreme. You don't have a Fed who's going to be raising rates. Like, it doesn't really make sense for this to go down much lower. But does it make sense for us to be boring for a few years before it kind of, recovers or whatnot? Maybe. Yeah. Airdrop tokens, oh yeah. Yeah, I saw about that airdrop, yeah. Darren does things. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. Yeah, I mean, it would be very surprising if this goes any lower. That's probably your bottom. But you could see, similar to here, like it's probably not going to, it could take time before it frickin', like you may not see this substantially do anything that great until 2029 or 2030. Like I think the 2030s will probably, 2030s will probably be more like from here when did this, let's just look at this. If we were to, well, actually, let's look at it from here or whatever. Or, I don't know if there's, let's look at it from here. If you were to, do something like that, yeah, the 2030s would probably, up until 2040. So that would probably be just your bad decade for the frickin', risk on assets, S&P 500, Bitcoin, everything, except probably, I think gold could do well. I think some other things may do well. Maybe Bitcoin even does well, but it's very rare any damn asset like goes up for no real asset stays in a bull run for more than 20 years. At least I haven't really seen it. It's not common. If we look at S&P 500 hasn't rallied for more than 20 years since it was a 30-year period from 1940, you could argue, to but the thing is too with that, and if we can go back to, let's just go back. I have it on the chart, so it wouldn't take too long to find. But, we look back on the, the monthly here, and okay, from, that was Great Depression low. This was what was this, from 1950 to 19, that was a 30-year period. But really, it really only was, when you look at getting back to new all-time highs here, this was 55 to 72. So that was not even 20 years, you know what I mean? And then you dropped downward. That was kind of your good. This went to 73, but then you had your drop, and then, So it's just a bad decade in general there, But I guess you could argue, too, if it's 20 years since you, recovered, that would be early 2030s, that you keep going up to. If you want 20 years there, it'd early 2030s before it really, enters that main bear market. But I still think that decade overall is going to be bad. You know what I mean? That's what I'm kind of thinking. The other thing too, I mean, you look at gold, you're probably not going to find anywhere where it did, where it was in a bull run for more than, 20 years at a time, or even 10 years. I mean, what was this? 1970 to 10 years. This was to 10 years. I mean, from that bottom here, 2016 to, it's been about 10 years. I mean, maybe it keeps going. Maybe, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think if this doesn't continue forward in the 2030s, then it would probably just mark that, people don't care about it. Gold's just not what it used to be. I mean, it's too heavy. It's just not tech enough. And maybe that money, instead of going into gold, goes into Bitcoin. I don't know. Or it's hard to say. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I'm not in Miami right now, but yeah. Party, okay. Yeah, I mean, there's always new coins. Hope it does well. DeFi ecosystems, Bitcoin, $5 trillion market cap. I mean, what's the market cap at the moment? Let's see, 2 trillion. Okay, so 5 trillion would be over 200,000, which you probably could get there by the end of the decade. Yeah, I would say 200,000 to 400,000 probably would be my 2030, 2029 prediction. That's what I would kind of say. Japan, I don't know how much more they'll have to raise their rates. You're looking at you're looking at a GDP per capita less than, I think it's, or excuse me, a GDP even less than California. Like, I don't think, like, Japan doesn't have to higher their rates that much to screw up their economy enough to bring down inflation. You know what I mean? People do like Japan a real lot. It's a really great place to go. That's why I think, the Japanese dollar may continue to do well against the U.S. dollar, especially with all like the U.S. American tourism that's been getting big in the last few years, post COVID. They're kind of making it harder, especially like backlash against Trump too. They're kind of making it harder for Americans to go places too. So, and I think it's just naturally what happens as, an empire gets less and less. But, I think it'll still always be looked at how, at least how Europe is looked at. I mean, London's always, that'd be a good question to kind of look at. Like, I'm going to do it on my phone. Like, what were, list significant pullbacks for London real estate in the last 100 years. Let's just see here, in the last 100 years. So essentially since the Great Depression. Doing it on ChatGPT. I'm just curious when, because I mean, you could kind of like London, New York City is kind of, the next London in a sense. If you do see the U.S.'s place as a world power get less and less, I mean, you're not really going to see that too much during a Trump presidency. I don't think in the next 4 years too much, but Gavin Newsom coming in, that's basically Xi Jinping being president of the United States. I mean, you're not, you're probably not going to. All this stuff that Trump has done, like that could be just derouted, completely derouted in a heartbeat. And I mean, you look at, the 2020 election, you look at previous elections. I mean, who do you think is going to win in 2028? It could be Trump Jr., it could be J.D. Vance, but I don't know. I think the pendulum may swing again. And I mean, you look at what happened in 2020. I don't think it's impossible to have some type of repeat of that, for regardless of what the reason is. Deep down, I mean, that's not about what the reason is. It's just trying to, we don't care why things happen. We're just trying to predict what happens, Let's see. So, okay, 1973 to 75, banking crisis. Let's see. Interest rates increasing. Okay. 70s. So kind of the same as the U.S. Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. There's a recession there. House prices in London dropped only 15%, but it took until August 2014 to to recover there in the UK housing market. 2014 to 2025. Prime Central, Kingston, Chelsea. I don't even know those places too. I'm sure I've been to them when I was in London years ago. London's a great city, by the way. Probably a little worse now than it used to be, but yeah. I said damn wokeism, but you know. Lowest level since 2013. Wow. Higher property tax, regs over. That's really interesting because you would think, you know, those prime locations, those prime central would always keep a higher thing. So they've dropped down. That actually could be a good buy. That could be a good buy if you're in. Well, it probably would go down if the U.S. one goes down in, you know, early 2030s or whatever. But that's interesting. You would think London real estate just follows New York City real estate generally. Let's see here. We get to extreme greed on this pump. I will probably take profits. Yeah. I mean, that would kind of be, you know, the way, you know, that's just the pendulum swings. I mean, I think you're better off to wait for like the 3 week, you know, next higher red dot, which would probably be towards the end of the year. Maybe the 2 week one, I could see that giving us our summer lull, but not being the whole thing. Dice for lines of Bitcoin dots? Nah, never bothered with that. But yeah. What's up, guys? Let's see. Average people getting poor, every country rich getting. That's kind of what happens, Jennifer. Like, that's kind of because that's what makes things more polarized as you're seeing it. I mean, as people get more divided within, you know, it doesn't really matter if people are more divided. Like, let's be real. It doesn't really matter if people are more divided in a country like France or a country like any country that doesn't have that like major of an economy. But it matters more. Obviously, America matters. If people are divided, it matters 100 times more than any other place because that's the world power. When you see more, you know, income inequality and stuff like that, and I think the AI and all that, you're really going to start to feel that probably in the early 2030s, maybe even later this decade. I think I mean, it's going to be more when the majority of Uber drivers are automated away in America, when the majority of the food delivery people are automated away in America, that's probably what would signify your next kind of recession, probably. And there's more division, you know, there's division between men and women. There's all these type of things, you know, you're seeing more states, you know, Roe v. Wade, that, you know, that's shot down. That gives the states more power, which, you know, it doesn't really matter what your view on it is. It's just, it shows that it's slightly a more divided playing field. You know, more states are more divided. And the thing is, when you have the world power that's kind of just on ends with each other, and everybody, you know, you look at kind of American culture too, what it has become, everyone kind of hates each other, you know, in a certain way. It's always kind of been like that. And you see the same thing in other countries too. But we're so in America. That's kind of what people in Scandinavia kind of, they think Americans are like the Kardashians, I've heard. And it is true to a certain extent. When you see more of that, you know, it kind of, you know, when you have internal conflicts and things, maybe not an actual full out civil war, you know, I think we're getting more, hopefully more, what's the word, smarter, you know, more civilized, more technologically advanced to prevent these things from happening. But when you get internal conflicts at the same time, you have, you know, other conflicts happening, you know, let's say Russia trying to invade more of Eastern Europe, which does seem likely, and I don't think it's ever enough there. You know, it's kind of, it's really never enough unless you know, I mean, I guess you would have to handle that a certain way, really, to establish like a strong border there. You know, really, I mean, the crazy thing would be kind of if you just gave Putin all the Ukraine, and established a very strong border, and had everybody else close by join NATO, then you're probably, I don't think Putin. I think that's enough. You know, I think Putin would be pretty satisfied with that. Maybe I'm wrong, but that would be one situation. And then you have China, who's eventually going to go after Taiwan, and they are to a certain extent. You know, most of their people even believe. You know, there are over 1 billion people that live there, believe essentially Taiwan is a part of China. You have that, the more of the unity that you don't really have in America. And there's probably other places they're going to go after too after that. I mean, as you know, you look at the American Empire, it was not, it wasn't compared to what the UK had. It didn't have, you didn't have that much. You know what I mean, compared to previous. Well, yeah, I mean the Roman Empire, the major ones of Roman Empire is all Europe basically. I guess you could kind of compare in terms of land size. America being similar to that, but if you look at China being the new world power in let's say the 2050s, when we're all old, when we're all old, you would probably see them definitely having Taiwan, probably some other parts of Asia, I would guess, but not that much more. And they would just be viewed as, the centric thing. UK housing prices are astronomical, but they're down in the central London locations, it said on ChatGPT. Prices here are going up. Okay, so I would say, yeah, I mean, the thing with, like, I would kind of compare UK real estate to, like, if you compared it to, it's a high population in the UK. I mean, it's like 60 million people. You can compare the UK, I would say, or at least, what is the UK population? I just want to see. Is it like UK population? What the hell is UK population? I mean, I guess 60 million. Not UN. UK population. Like, I was going to say, you could probably compare it to, like, the northeast of the United States. You know what I mean? Like, I would say those, it's probably a similar. No, not the. This thing is so dumb because I put UK and it keeps like changing it to UN. But you kind of compare that to the Northeast. I mean, I think, even if, I would say worst case scenario, you would see California would become its own country, Florida in the southern states, maybe they would be the kind of their own country. But I think the Northeast would stay, at least the original 13 colonies, that would stay together and that would become known kind of like what the UK is known as right now. Okay, so England population, 57 million, Scotland, 5. Yeah, nobody lives in Scotland. I thought it was more, only 5 million. So, a little over 60 million people. Let's just see Northeast U.S. population. Let's just see that, Northeast U.S. population. And I think that would pretty similar. And I think that would always, kind of keep a decently high, rate of life, quality of life. I mean, I guess in a world war, if you look at World War II, when there was bombings in London and stuff, But I mean, the UK still won that war, and then you would think that they won that war, they'd keep kind of their place as the world power. Nope, it fell off a cliff. I mean, they lost everything and a half, But they still got a good amount. Let's see. So what's the total? 58 million. So it's essentially the same. Yeah. Let's see. Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. Yeah. New York. Yeah. That would all stay kind of unified, I would think. I mean, you could argue Pennsylvania, maybe not because it's more red, but I think that would still, those northeastern states would all stay. Yeah, that would kind of stay all kind of unified. And I think that would always see, generally an appreciation in real estate. And that would probably become, if you look at history, that would become what London, what the UK has become. But I wonder what that would look like. I mean, you definitely, California would probably be its own country. I wonder if the smaller states, they probably would be their own countries, some of them, but it would, they'd have unity like how the EU is and stuff. That's kind of what would become more like. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's a slow thing, 180 to 250, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. What's your Bitcoin target? Yeah, what you're saying, Nemanha. Yeah, I would say that probably between, yeah. I mean, it's more about really the exit thing. I think would be this 3 week would probably really give, once that red dot starts to show anytime in Q4, October onward. That's probably where it's. I mean, in all likelihood, you're going to see something like this. Where does this bring us out to? At least October. It's probably that's regardless of where the hell price is at that point. That's probably the place to get out. Do I have a fan community fund that I trade with? No, but it could be. That could be something we could work on. Let's see here. Those are distractions to avoid economics. What are... Overextended with government debt. The government debt would theoretically have to keep interest rates down too. Like that would be another reason why bonds can't go any lower. Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, code printing made things worse. Yeah. Um, mm, People say make money here and retire in Greece. Um, right? You mean here, meaning the U.S. or somewhere else? I mean, or UK? I mean, you look at European economies. Obviously, Germany's the biggest one. You know, that would, in terms of opportunity, it's probably Germany, the other Scandinavian countries to a certain extent, the UK, you know, and then maybe France. But I mean, after that, there's not too much of an economy. I mean, those countries too. I mean, they kind of already have a UBI to a certain extent. I mean, all of those kind of already. I mean, that's probably what America is going to look like, whether it's an actual UBI or or just an extended of welfare to the level of Europe. That's probably what's going to happen. Um, it could be years. Like it still would be probably many years away since you'd see like a global, like every country doing some type of UBI. But yeah. Or, it's kind of hard to say because if it's like what Naval Ravikant said in Rogan's podcast, like, I don't know, 6 years ago now, it would be just, people doing just wackier, who would have thought people make money playing video games? Who would have thought people make money live streaming? Well, I mean, live streaming, say, kind of like a radio show or a podcast, things like that, or a TV show. But I don't know. It's really hard to say. I don't know. What is that in dollars? Is that like 400 grand? So, I mean, that's not, for the US, that's not too expensive. Is it 70 million now, UK population? Okay. It's gone up then. ChatGPT said it was only like 65. So it's more than the Northeast yen. But I think it's like comparable kind of, you know what I mean? Like those are places to compare to. Like, it's really the thing too, because you look at it's like New England, it was all settled by England, kind of all started that. Like it's kind of, the American Empire is just kind of the footprint of the, kind of the extension of the British Empire to a certain extent because it was, it was founded by the British. Um, and then, I mean, I guess if you think the next one's going to be China, then that's where it gets a lot different. That's where you'd probably, yeah, I mean, you would expand more of the Mandarin language, but at that point, the technology is going to be so damn good, you probably just put a little headphone in and it translates instantaneous to you. I mean, there's probably not going to be any reason to know any more languages in the future. Um, let's see here. So, I don't know the UK too well, but Southern UK below Birmingham prices are very high compared to average. Yeah. I mean, it's very hard in Europe to usually buy property from what I've heard and read. It's not, it's gotten a lot harder in America since '08, obviously. But it's, in Europe, most people, they don't have that real big mindset of it, number one. Number two, it's with the income level. I mean, it's easier to, like, it's more of a rent because Europe doesn't have no freaking credit score, right? Do you even have a credit score in the UK? I know most of Europe does not have a credit score. I'm trying to, does any country, which to an American, that probably sounds nuts to you. Like, how the hell do people, use credit cards and all that? And the answer is they don't really. A lot of them don't really use credit cards. If they do, it's not like Americans where you can get, freaking 100 grand and have 3 or 4 credit cards and your total line is over 100 grand, which, I mean, you probably only need you don't even need that high of an income for that. You can kind of, just over time, they keep raising it and stuff. But if you pay, in full every month or whatever. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so, I mean, they don't really have that credit score. And, I mean, it's harder. It's damn harder to get, even after everything done after '08, I think it's even harder to get a mortgage in the UK or anywhere in Europe or really anywhere in the world outside of outside the U.S. I mean, they don't really. That's another thing that may kind of be the reason of the downfall of the U.S. too, because it's like it's the only country that was like, well, I don't know if the UK was more like that, when it was still the world power, but you look at like it's just so much credit and so much. I mean, the average American was at 5 to 10 grand worth of credit card debt. Like you don't have that in other places. Like most people in other countries buy their houses with cash. If they do have a mortgage, it's like it's such a small amount in respect to the money they put down. But then again, this is only a select few rich people in these countries that are ever able to buy property. What was I going to say? So you do have that like that. So it could be something with credit. I would think, things that would kind of finally bust the bubble in America. It's kind of like what those people like Robert Kiyosaki have been, 50 years, kind of, you could say wrong or delayed about 50 years delayed about it. It never really came to fruition too much, but just too much debt, too much consumerism and too much debt, all the car loans, all that explodes, let's say in early 2030s. That's, you finally get that depression or whatever. That's the end of your empire essentially. And then people kind of get desperate, they get annoyed, but I think it would be a much tamer version. It's not going to be like World War II. I mean, the future warfare, that your only main fear with future warfare, I would say it's going to be drone warfare. Your only main fear is if you get some nutcase who programs the damn drones where once all the drones die and your side surrenders, okay, let's just start shooting all the civilians for, you know what I mean? Which does happen. There's a lot of damn sick people and, sick people you've seen in history. But I mean, the more ethical version of, World War III or the next war would be obviously, just drone warfare. And then once the last drone gets destroyed on one side, then you just wave the white flag and that's it. You know what I mean? But it's like what happens after that? Then you have the other, side coming in. I mean, after World War II, Americans had a ton of influence, obviously, on Japan because of that craziness and Germany. But especially, a lot of the things that, I mean, it's argued, but a lot of things that the Allied powers did with Japan after they finally surrendered after World War II is things that put Japan in the footsteps of becoming a democracy, becoming one of the greatest countries, on earth, and arguably one of the highest life expectancies, some of the best food, probably one of the, maybe one, I mean, they have an interesting culture there, more of a work too hard culture, but, obviously one of the best countries to live in, one of the most, civilized countries, probably the safest country, one of the safest countries, But I would think too, like it's probably going to be, the next system is probably going to be like capitalism with a strict parent, kind of like that, the Chinese system. Because ever since World War II, you looked at, well, I mean, before it was kind of the parliamentary system that the UK used, which is kind of similar to the American system. The American system's a little bit more, you could argue based on like the votes of the people, but not much, but still kind of a different version of democracy. In some ways, you could say it's even less democracy because of the electoral college and all that, you know what I mean? But then it's probably even less democracy if you get, China as a world power eventually. So, yeah. Let's see here, David Brumble, England, 57 million, yeah. Oh, okay. You do have Experian and Equifax, but in the rest of our is it that easy to get a credit card there? It's obviously harder to get, or like a mortgage. Is it harder? And do other countries in Europe have the credit scores? UK has a credit score. Okay. You have to jump through every peg and yeah, so it's extremely hard. That's what I thought. Yeah, extremely hard to get a mortgage in the UK. And I think that's probably how it is in most of the world outside of the U.S. The U.S. is still the easiest. And I think that'll probably end after the next kind of more. I think it gets harder and harder. You know what I mean? Like the U.S. still probably is one of the easiest, but it gets harder and harder, after. Like really the easiest thing is if you live in the U.S. and have a U.S. salary and you buy a property in a foreign country, that's probably the easiest way to do it. Something cheap. If it's only 150K, but that's more, you got to put more money down, in what cases, safest assets in a depression, really, if you look at gold, like let's go back at gold, because obviously gold did somewhat well, if we really, It was gold, but gold did dump a little bit at first. Yeah, there's not much data on this back here. And they confiscated it too. I don't think Bitcoin would do this, from it dumped at first against well, it was only 70% too. Like it did. Yeah, I mean, okay. So if you're looking at Bitcoin at like, say, I don't know, when the crash starts, maybe Bitcoin's at 300K. Crash first starts happening, it goes down to 150, and then it comes back up to those high. Like, you'll do well with Bitcoin, better in other things if it does that, but you're not gonna. It was kind of the U.S. dollar back then, but at the time this could be different because they may start printing dollars, but maybe they won't be able to. It's like what asset could do well there. It's hard to say. Really, okay. So to answer that question, here's what a lot of people don't know, but I didn't know this for a long time either. The ultra rich, and I'm talking usually, let's say like net worth as like 10 million and over, maybe even 15 million and over. Let's say 10 million over. Kind of depends. Like we're talking people that. Like your baby boomer that saved all his money and put it into, the S&P 500 and stuff, he's maybe worth 5 million or something. That's somebody who's had a good salary and put a lot of it away and was pretty frugal or whatever. He's got 5 million, maybe even 10 million in some cases. I'm not even talking about him because he has no interest in doing what I'm about to say. Usually, so let's take your 40-year-old or 30-year-old rich Joe, 40 between the ages of like 30 and 70. You're a rich guy, you're a rich guy. He's got 15 million. Maybe he had a business he sold. Maybe he's just really, talented lawyer. Maybe he's a really good businessman. Maybe he's a hedge fund guy. His net worth is generally made up in three main categories. So one category would be real estate. Usually they got a nice house, usually a $5 million house. If you're worth about 15 mil, usually you got a $5 million house, or maybe you have maybe you have three houses worth 1.5 mil each or something. Maybe you got it depends how you want to do it. Maybe you got a vacation home in Florida worth 2 mil on the water, and you got, Boca Raton or whatever the hell, and then you got something in the Northeast that's pretty bougie for 4 million or something. You spend 6 months and 1 day in Florida for tax purposes, something like that. That's 1/3 of your net worth. Maybe you got some rental properties too, who knows? But that's usually within the 5 million. The other 1/3, another 5 million, would probably be in the S&P 500, primarily in stocks, high market cap stock, S&P 500, high market cap stocks, in the Nasdaq, who the hell knows, essentially shit like that. And then your last third, which is the most significant here, would usually be, and for most of these cases, hedge fund. Now, people like Warren Buffett, a lot of people will tell you, the majority of hedge funds a lot of years do not outperform the S&P 500. That's why a hedge fund is crap, they would say. However, there's a little bit of a difference here. So, hedge fund generally helps you the most when you can short. Especially, there's a lot of techniques like Nassim Taleb. You just bleed a little bit over many years, and then happens about 10 years. 08 was the big one. 12 years later, you had COVID. Probably the next one will be somewhere between, let's say, 2026 to 2032. That big crash, you get a big fucking, excuse the language, you get a big payday for the hedge fund. So, let's say your house is worth 5 mil. S&P 500, you got 5 mil in there. You got 5 mil in the hedge fund. So what generally happens here, and I didn't know this for a while either. A lot of people don't know this. What generally happens, so your house would on average go down 20-30% in the crash, if the crash happens. 20-30%, we look at COVID, real estate shock crash went down 20 or 30%. Your $5 million house is probably worth 4 million, maybe less. And your S&P 500 is worth, somewhere between 2.5 mil to maybe 4 mil or 5 or, something like that. So you're down you're down a lot. You're down a couple mil. You went from 15 million. You're down a few mil with those assets and classes. I'm probably taking too long to explain this, but your hedge fund generally, unless you're dealing with complete morons, you're investing in the wrong hedge fund in this case, which could happen, but it's usually pretty rare. Your hedge fund usually gives you a big payday when that happens. Like usually they have enough shorts in and they're able to do enough there where that 5 million you had in the hedge fund usually makes up for a lot. Like maybe overall you're still negative, but that 5 mil could become like 6 or 7 mil, and they give you I think what happens a lot of times is like that money you can get pretty quickly. I think you do have to pay taxes on it, but you can take some of that money, that 2 mil, and what a lot of times they do is they buy the dip. So they'll take that 2 mil or that 1 mil and they'll buy the dip on the S&P 500 or real estate, whatever the hell, usually it's S&P 500, but they'll buy the dip on that area. They get that good deal and then you keep going. Now, it could be more too because, S&P 500 down 50%, 30% for COVID. You were able to get in at those good prices and then it goes up a lot. That's somebody's net worth that went from 15 million, let's say, and let's just say S&P 500 returns, and this was, right here. They were able to keep that 5 million. Let's say we were kind of able to keep that 5 million from the COVID lows or something. That 5 million they had is now worth well over 10 million. So that's how and then your real estate almost freaking doubled too. So that's how somebody worth 15 million is now probably worth, I don't know, 30 million, over a double, 10 to 15. That's how the rich get richer. That's kind of just generally what happens. And if you look at like I forget what exactly would happen in a depression or all that, but even in a depression, those people probably wouldn't get, usually the money the kids usually aren't as smart over a few generations. So then the money kind of gets, discombobulated and stuff. And there's, mindset and all that, kind of adheres to it, kind of, causes certain things to happen. But I don't know. You would have to see the hedge funds and everything completely crap itself. But it would be unlikely all the hedge funds crap themselves because they're going to short. Half their positions are going to be shorts. They know what you're doing. Now, can you do this by yourself? Absolutely. Yes, you can. Do you have the balls to do it? Do you have the, I think I do, but it's tough. It's definitely, it takes a while to learn too. Not the easiest thing. Now, with AI and everything happening, will it be easier to do that? Will just more people be rich? I don't know. Maybe. If you look at kind of the world in general, it generally gets better. So we'll see. 30, 40-year mortgages. 30 is the biggest you could do in America, I think. So, yeah. But like Ethan said, yeah, smart. So that's ultimately, what I would like. The main case that we would kind of guess would happen here. We look at the drop from that area. Like, where does your S&P 500 like top out towards the end of the decade? Like if you follow the general trajectory of this, it could be even high. It could really. It would probably be 1,100, 1,000. It would keep going up probably. Into the end of this decade. Then you get your major kind of, pullback, and they're normally around 50-60%. So, maybe the goddamn scene of the crime was 22. That's kind of your big area to come back to, like kind of those lows at some point. And that would be, when would you see that low? Probably somewhere in the early 2030s or something. That would almost be depression. It would be major recession, if not depression. You know what I mean? That's kind of what you would see. So yeah, you're trying to go to that point, yeah. But yeah, no, to reiterate what I've been looking at on the markets today, it looks generally still pretty good. You're coming down a little bit, but kind of a rejection from that point. Yeah, rejection from that point. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe the daily you could try to short that if things do play out like that. Maybe a consolidation the weekend. I kind of think you're going to be more range bound and gradually make it up to 120 into the end of June. Maybe your earliest place where we top out could be around Bitcoin conference. If you make a run to 120, I think 120 is going to be. It's going to be hard to keep. It's going to be hard to push through to 120 to 138 or 140 just like that. Anything could happen, but I mean, that would probably be similar to 21. I mean, if you're at 140, this month and the next month, I mean, that's probably most of your run. You're probably not getting much higher than that. I mean, maybe you could get to 200. Who knows? But maybe we'll see. But yeah, confiscating golds and stuff. So yeah, I mean, how would you prepare? I mean, ideally, you'd want to for a depression for when you have a few years to do it. I don't know what's the minimum investment in a good hedge fund? Like, let me just ChatGPT like minimum investment. Let's just to do in Bridgewater. Let's say just a big ass hedge fund everyone knows about. Was it Bridgewater Capital? Minimum investment in Bridgewater Capital. It's probably at least $1 million, I would think. Maybe $5 million. Could it be that? I don't know. Let's just see. Like what that would kind of give you your ultra net worth that's considered right now. So, oh wow. Okay. Wait a second. Firm to. Oh shoot. So it's only. Wait a second. Bridgewater Associates primarily large institutional investors, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds. Firm to grows clients to have a minimum of 7.5 billion. Oh, so individuals can't even invest in that? For individual investors seeking exposure to high certain financial power, feeder funds, Hudson Point Capital, minimum investment as low as okay, so 100K. I don't know if that would follow it too well. Usually, it's general min investment in a well-known hedge fund. For an individual. That's what we want here. Dog is still pumping. Usually, like those big predictions like that, he was saying 500K to $1 million. Is that for the end of the decade, or is that for? I don't think that's for this year. Yeah, I would say half of that would be the bigger range for the end of the decade. Maybe 250 to 500K would be for the end of the decade, and then probably the end of the 2040s. And I know it's a hell of a long time away, but that's probably when you would hit that 1 mil. That's what I would guess. About 20 years from now or 15 years from now, you'd hit that 500K to $1 mil. That's what I would guess. For individual investors, the general minimum investment in a well-known hedge fund is typically 250. So yeah, to 5 million. So I mean, okay, Bridgewater. Yeah, so it's saying 5 million. Yeah, that's really where I would say if you got 15 million net worth, well, is where you're that's where it's really, you could really hedge the bet well. I think if you, two lesser known but accessible funds, 500K to 2 mil. Feeder funds, that probably wouldn't be as good, but you probably, if you did your research, you'd probably be able to do something during the next crash. And even with all this, like this is still just kind of hedging your bet, but it's like a big hedge that, if you're betting that there's going to be a crash at some point, you know what I mean? So I would say 500K to 2 mil. If you, I mean, a net worth of, what do you have to be an accredited investor? I don't even know. It's 1 million. That's all it is, right? I think, yeah, it's just 1 million, which is not a lot. I mean, it's not a lot. And I think it's pretty easy to become one even after you get that. I haven't looked into it enough, but I probably should look into that. But I'm not really, I do everything myself. I don't, where I am, I don't know if I maybe it's the hubris, but I don't really think I can beat the hedge funds, but I don't know. But anyway, I mean, 1.5 mil net worth, which if you did it smart, if you had, let's say, 500K in real estate, you just own a condo. So, yeah, it's a tiny little house in America nowadays, 500K in real estate, and then 500K in S&P 500, and then 500K in, that's kind of the, you still would probably, I mean, you still would have to work, you probably still, S&P 500, if you're selling some of it, for that 4% a year, depends on. Doing that hedge fund, you'd probably be able to, it'd be enough to retire, I think. If you did it smart, it probably would, 1.5 mil net worth, if you did it somewhat smart, you probably could. Because if you had 500K in real estate, you owned your house outright or whatever, I mean, your expenses probably would be, I'm trying to think, I mean, let's say, I mean, if you got a 500K high rise in Miami, I know from experience with that. You know, if you guys don't know, I have one in Miami that's, you know, worth a little more than that now. But, you know, if you got that in Miami, what are your HOA about $1,100 a month, property tax about 8K, 9K a year. So that's, what is that, 20 G's right there. That's 20 G's for that, plus food, you know, all your other damn expenses. I mean, I don't know. If you're spending $1,000 a month on other crap, I mean, if you did it somewhere frugally, 30K, let's say, you know, if you 30K a year for, well, 20K, right? You probably 30, 40K a year to be pretty comfortable. Let's say 40K, be somewhat comfortable, you know, so maybe you own your car, you know, the expenses aren't too high there. That's 40K. So if you have 500K, that's to be 500, and you're taking out, you know, approximately 10% a year, 500K with a hedge fund, and you're kind of waiting for the market to crash to get your huge payday, then you're going to reinvest some of that. So you'd probably be fine. You know, you wouldn't impress anybody in Miami too much. You know, you wouldn't impress anyone too much with that, but you probably wouldn't have to work. And especially if you went to a foreign country, I mean, somewhere, you know, anywhere in Latin America, Asia, you know, you probably wouldn't have to, and you just kept that. Like, that would be you wouldn't really have to work. Now there's another problem. You have to find meaning in your damn life. You know, you're just getting depressed. There's no positive thing at the end. You know, there's nothing there. But if you had 1.5 mil, but I mean, if you had 3 mil, that's where it gets more like. Then you're kind of, you know, if you had 3 mil, you put 1 mil to hedge fund. You know, 1 mil S&P 500. If you took out 4% a year, was that 40 grand? Then you got 1 mil in real estate. You could put more in the S&P 500 or something, depending on how you want to do it. But or obviously crypto. But we're just talking about it. You know, more. You know, you could do half crypto. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. But that would be like a pretty damn comfortable retirement, I would say. I mean, even with a family and kids, 3 million would be. I mean, if you have that's the problem at that point. Like, I was watching Carl Runefeld, one of Carl from the Moon's videos. He hasn't had a girlfriend in 2 years. He says too much of a headache. So you run into other issues. Like, there's no light. It doesn't matter what the hell you do. There's no light. You know, then you make money. People, all these communists want to take it from you. You know what I mean? Therefore you're evil. Now you take it for, you know what I mean? Everyone wants, if you say you have money, everyone wants to take it from you. If you say you don't have money, oh, he's a loser, he's broke. You know, there's no really, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, really. I mean, I'm half joking. I mean, it's obviously, money's going to help you a lot, but you still need to be careful. There's no real, you know, utopia in life, at least not yet. You know, at least not yet. So yeah, UK is half the bar of the USA. I don't know what you mean by what do you mean half the bar? It's UK is expensive. It's not half the price of the, you know. Acquire a license for it, for a hedge fund or whatever. Yeah, I mean, CryptoFace was doing some copy trading. I've done that before. The damn exchanges take so much of that money. It's not even really worth it to do it. You know what I mean? Because if you're only getting 10% a month for your followers, 20%, they're only gonna walk away with so much. It's almost, when you do really the math at it, it's almost not really worth it. And if you have a bad month, you're kind of screwed and you feel bad. But yeah, I mean, to be an accredited, you need to be an accredited investor to invest in a hedge fund generally. Take your 2 mil and use to stake it from your favorite DApp and get 200K. I don't think that's a good idea at all. You're betting on the US dollar, you know. Yeah, I mean, is it even that much of a, I mean, that's what people were trying to do with Celsius. Look what happened to them. You know, no, I mean, yeah, Pattaya of all places. Yeah, who the fuck wants to live in Pattaya? That place is a shit. That you're gonna, if you want to have trouble in your life, go to Pattaya. Like, yeah, there's pros. That's just freaking, yeah. I mean, thing too with Colombia is, man, you could get targeted in Colombia. I mean, there's people with money. You got to be careful there. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. I mean, we talked about good places to go, but yeah, I mean, 2 mil. Like, I would say you'd want to go. You probably real estate 500K, like 2 mil. I mean, if you wanted to have, I would say the best thing to do with that, buy a condo somewhere in Asia for like 200K, and then buy another place somewhere cool in Latin America, Colombia, Mexico, wherever for another 200K. 2 nice places. I probably wouldn't even bother with U.S. real estate at that point. I don't know if I would, or if you just wanted one place, if you really wanted to live in the U.S., then do that. But and then another, so that would be about 500K, and then you have 1.5 mil left. I would say 700K in the hedge fund, another 700K or 800K S&P 500. You could divide it half S&P 500. You go half S&P. You could go 200 S&P 500, 200 Nasdaq. If you want to be ballsy, 400 Bitcoin. I mean, it really depends. It depends how you want to do it, but I think if you did it smartly, usually, because hedge funds, they give such a big payday every time the market dumps bad, and they know how to do that so well. Now, the other thing there is if you get AI gets better and other things, I mean, then we're just living in a society that, there's going to be, I mean, in certain ways more meaning in life, and other ways less meaning in life. I think things do kind of get more socialized as time goes on, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, I usually, the other thing too, NW, if you could do something almost like that with FDIC insurance, there's annuities that do that shit. It's not going to be the same interest rate, but you get, I think it's 7%. You have to lock the money up though, but I wouldn't do that with a large amount, obviously, and I don't like the U.S. dollar long term either. So there's that possibility there. But anyway, guys, I've been on an hour and a half right now. If you guys like the video, what about those quants? That's big too. I haven't read up enough on that, but there's that guy Lit Nomad who made some videos about that. He's kind of retired from it. He took his 4 mil. I mean, the thing too is I'll be honest, that's where I found out about I mean, I knew rich people generally had a good amount of money in hedge funds, but that's where I found out about the 1/3 thing. So he's got 4 mil. He's probably got 1 mil in a hedge fund. I don't know, about maybe 1 mil in real estate investments, maybe, and then 1 or 2 mil probably in his own portfolio that he does, or maybe he does it all on his own. If he's a smart guy, maybe he could do it on his own. But still, I mean, what if the market's crashing and you don't feel good and you don't want to trade? I mean, that's the thing with hedge funds. That's where it kind of gets like, what if you broke your ankle? What if you're in the hospital? What if something happens? The markets crash quick. That's kind of why you need the hedge fund if you want to really, get it right. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get going. Check out BloFin if you guys want to trade, or BYDFI down below, 10% off your fees for life. In addition, there's the trading bonus for amount of trading volume done on BloFin. In addition, there's a nice deposit bonus on BYDFI and BloFin. On BloFin, it's up to 3K deposit bonus. So if you deposit 30K, you get 3K deposit bonus. So check that out if you guys are interested. And if you guys deposit at least $100 in either of those, don't forget to open a support ticket in the Discord with your UID or your email. So check that out. Really appreciate